Figured I'd give you a little update on the grown-up corn tool and cutter grinder. So I just now unbolted the two castings, and still got several things to do, of course, but I mean, this is going to be the initial configuration. This is going to be about the size of it. Now I don't have this end put on all the way. I've got to open up this bore a little bit to get a nice sliding fit on there. What I've done, where I've deviated quite a bit, is I'd originally bored these two just over shaft diameter for the front bar. Changed my mind on that. I've gone back, bored that oversize, and we're going to put brass bushings in both ends. So they are these bushings right here. And what I'm going to do is I've got a nice sliding fit into the bores of the castings themselves, because we're going to epoxy everything in place. And when we epoxy them in place, we'll set them up the way they Chaddock originally designed it, to level out the bed and everything. We'll just lay it across surface plate and do it. But with these bores being oversized from our bushings, when I epoxy them in place, that'll allow this to float and make sure I've got alignment. Now I'm going to go back there, a real tight fit on these shafts. I'm going to go back and lap these shafts down to size, so we've got a nice sliding fit on there. And then we'll just clean up this last one. I've had these sitting long enough. They've got a little bit of surface markings on them. Just staining is all it is. But anyway, this is the first time I've had the two castings unbolted. I have them bolted together to bore them, and we'll go ahead and get them fitted up to where we can put our bars in there. So that's ready to go, and then we'll lap our shafts, at least the front shaft, so we've got a nice sliding fit on these bushings. I'm really happy with it so far. Dimensions we'll end up with are going to be, this is not slid on, so we're actually going to end up with an 18-inch long bed on them, and we've got 18-inch height on this spiraling column, which we don't need that much. I think we could have gotten by with 12 or 14, probably about 14. But that's the size shaft we ordered and everything, so that's what we're going to put in. So I think everything looks pretty good so far. You know, they'll be, once I get the bushings done and everything and start fitting the rest of the stuff, then we'll go ahead and finish out these base castings and get them done, so they're ready to just adapt everything else onto. Thought I'd give you a little update on the grown-up corn tool and cutter grinder we're working on. Haven't worked on this much for quite a while, and just trying to get back in the swing of things. So anyway, I'm back here in the back end. I'm going to go ahead and glue the back bar in right now, and I'll bring you down here and show you what I've got. Got my two castings. They've been machined. They were bolted together, machined and everything. I've got a pretty tight fit on this rear bar for this, or on the bores for this rear bar. In the front, I decided I'm going to take and put bushings in, since this is the movable part, and I think that'll work pretty well for me. I've left a little bit of clearance around there, and I'm not going to install these quite yet. The only thing I'm doing today is going to put the rear bar in both ends and try and level it. Now, the bar that goes back in the front is not going to fill this bore, but all it is going to rest on the tops of those, so when I lay it across the surface plate, it should be fine. And the upper spiral bar, I'm not going to install it until after I've got the rear bar installed and both of the bushings installed here, so this part's on there. Now eventually what I'm going to do is mount this whole assembly onto a surface plate, and that's going to give me a little bit more mass and rigidity, hopefully. So I've already cleaned up the bores on both of these, and once I get it bolted down to a surface plate or get it put on the bigger surface plate that it's going to live on, then I'll go ahead and install that rear bar. That way I don't have the extra weight, because that's a fairly substantial bar, potentially adding any torque one way or the other to the bases on this. I want it secured in its position, then we'll start building up off of that. So once the back bar is installed, then I can go ahead and start filling some of my bolt holes that I put in when I bolted these together to machine them and that type of thing, start fitting it out. Another reason I don't want to put the bar in is if I machine any more on the bosses for these, and we'll have to do either a split cotter or a split for this to lock the front bar in position. I want to do most of that machining, if not all of that machining, before I put the upright bar on there. That way I've got more clearance off of my mill table. So anyway, that's all we're doing today. I've already cleaned up the ends and everything, so all I'm going to do is Loctite them in place. I'm using Loctite 680, and we'll set the front bar in place so it rests on the top of the bores here, and we'll set it across the surface plate and let it cure there. So that's pretty much all we've got going on today, but it's a little more forward progress is what it amounts to. And these fit tight enough, it's not going to take a whole lot of Loctite in here, but we're going to add a fair amount anyway. Whatever squishes out, we'll just clean up. I didn't bother to clean up the ends of that. In the lathe, they're just saw cut because they're going to be, when I finish out these castings, why they're just going to be, I think, painted over anyway. The front bar, when I go to working on it to fit, I'm going to lap to match both of the those bushings, because they're a little bit tight on there. That will take care of one end of it. Oh, long ways to go on there. There we go. That's a little better. I like that. Get that loosened up so they will sit on there. Then our front bar can go in here, enough for it to rest on. And then to line it up, it will sit right across our bars like that. So that will give us a good inline base right there. And that's, I think, all we need to do with that. I guess we can clean up our Loctite a little bit here before we get too carried away. So we don't have quite as much of a mess to clean up later on. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let me just roughly grab a tape measure since I didn't bring a caliper back here with me. And let's just eyeball our distances a little bit. That looks really, really good from what I'm seeing right there. Now, there'll be adjustments along the way. And let's see, let's come look at this a little bit closer maybe. There, I think we got you. There, I think we got you in frame. And see, this is going to standard quorns, 12 inches, I believe. Overall length, we've got just over 18, about 18 and a quarter. So we're going to have 13 inches of travel in between. And for our height, we're going to end up with about 14 inches of usable elevation. I think we're 18 inches overall. Yeah, we're 18 inches overall, but that ends up with just about 14 inches of what we can utilize above the base over here. So we're making progress. Like I say, that's all I wanted to get done today with this. So the next thing is I'll let this cure up. I'll work these castings a little bit, and we'll have to machine this bar. It's got to have the bore cut in the end, and all of those fittings taken care of. And then we're going to lap this to match these bushings. The bushings, I think, are pretty... I think they've done a pretty good job on the bores of them. They're pretty precise. So what I'm going to do is just, and they both fit about the same on this bar, and they're just a little bit tight in a few places. So I've already cast up a lap for it that I've got to machine out, and then we'll just lap this uniform until we've got a fairly snug sliding fit on this. We want it to be smooth enough or have enough clearance in it so it slides easily, because it's got the spring tension that works against it. So we don't want it hanging in the bushings, but I don't want any more play in it than I absolutely have to have. So anyway, that's where we're at. I've got to clean up these bosses, smooth the castings down a little bit, fill holes in them, and things like that once this is set up, but I'm not going to worry about any of that today. So anyway, hopefully you find this a little bit interesting. Comment suggestions, guys, leave them in the comment section for me below. I did have an interesting thing about comments. I had a individual a few days that subscribed to the channel, was commenting on the newer Grizzly mill, things like that. And you know, as I've said before, this is going to be a fun place, otherwise I'm not going to be here doing this, and this is my little toy box here. So if somebody thinks I've done something wrong, doesn't agree with my opinions, that type of thing, and I'm very opinionated about stuff, I'm more than happy to discuss that with you and everything. When I got, this morning, I just happened to be sitting watching my iPad, and I saw that I had a comment flag up. And this individual has seen fit to leave 2 comments for me. One of them was I needed to quit messing around with medical marijuana, and I don't even know what that pertained to. But, and there again, that's an item I'm very opinionated on. I think all of that stuff's bullshit. But nonetheless, that was his first opinion. And the second one was he didn't agree with one of the things that I'd said or one of my opinions. So he said I needed to pull my head out of my ass. So that individual won't be commenting anymore. So anyway, I just found that interesting. You know, like I say, I'll discuss things. If people don't agree with me, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. And if we want to discuss that, that's fine. But when you're just a dumbass, I'm going to boot you. So anyway, hopefully you find that interesting this morning. We'll see more of this here before too long, because now it's taking up space on Workbench, so we'll be making some progress on it. So anyway, comment suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below, guys. Have a good weekend, what's left of it, and thanks for taking the time to watch.